season, pulls in front of 67. In the pit, Colucci orchestrates the action.
The most important thing we want to do is, because the pits are so small here, we can't afford to have both cars stop at the same time. So we're trying to plan it so that that doesn't happen. And the races are such a length that we're right on the edge of being able to do it with only 2 fuel stops. If it goes our way, we'll do only 2 stops. If not, we'll have to do 3. But I won't be able to tell that until we get 40, 50 minutes into the race.
The crew readies for the first pit stop. Steve Bounds will do the rear tire. Bob the front. Crew Chief Steve McNaughton will clean the windshield. He believes in a hands-on approach in the pit and in the garage.
He's good to work with because we work together. I'd say, you know, some crew chiefs, they have their notebook in hand and they give everybody jobs to do and they stay like that. But he jumps in, he's right there. There's no job that he won't do or give anybody else to do. You know, we have a list and we all just jump in.
The fuel man for the 67 car is Brett George, affectionately known as Bondo. At the track and at the team shop in Southern California, Brett does all the body repair and paint work for both cars. This means as many as 4 spare bodies. Now he stands by, ready to handle the highly flammable racing gasoline. Moss comes in, aiming for Colucci. The car goes up on the air jack and all 4 tires will be changed. Busby has decided not to take the wheel yet. No driver change will make this a faster pit stop, giving them some advantage. Any mistake now could mean disaster on the track, and when you work this fast, it can be dangerous. So for safety, every man must give the all-clear signal. While the 67 crew recovers from their pit stop, the crew for the 68 car gets ready. Mike Colucci now directs his attention to the 68 car's first pit stop.
He is the glue that hangs the thing together here and organizes what you see here. But his task back at the workshop, which is where most of the work is done, even though this seems very intense, is in many ways the same as mine. We share a lot of the same responsibilities and make a lot of the decisions together because I think we have a mutual respect for one another. We've known each other for many years. Mike Colucci and I go back to 1975. I drove and ran a car for Peter Gregg. I drove a car and I got to know Michael as a crew member on that team, and I've watched Michael advance through the ranks and become probably one of the finest team managers that I've ever seen. He's a tremendous organizer and operates with a firm hand, and yet he understands these guys because he's been there. He's put in those 18 and 20-hour days, 7 days a week.
Some of the guys are kidding and say that you're the bad guy on the team. Why do they say that?
Because it's true. It's part of my job to enforce, not really enforce is not the right word, is to set policy and set the standards by which we have to adhere, which we have to perform. Nobody ever said General Patton was a nice guy, but he got stuff done. Well, racing mechanics by nature are kind of like the prima donnas of mechanics. Some of these guys have, and I'm not talking about our people specifically, I'm talking about race mechanics in general, they tend to be a little bit high-strung and temperamental, kind of like artists would be as compared to a house painter, let's say. So it takes sometimes care that you don't bruise some egos and offend other people. It's kind of a ticklish problem, really. And it's compounded by the fact that we have 2 cars. And the natural tendency is for one car to compete against the other. It makes for a lot of hard feelings. And I think when there's animosity like that, people aren't real productive. And what we're trying to do overall is to win races. I don't care which car wins, one or the other.
That makes sense to Colucci, of course, but not everyone can approach it from his perspective.
If anybody needs any help, whether it's on 67 or 68, the other crew will come along and help. That's fine, no problems. There's no inter-team rivalry there. We're all just one team. But when we get out on the racetrack and the race is on, then we're out to beat them just as much as anybody else.
Phil notifies Pete Halsmer that co-driver John Morton will take the wheel. As soon as Halsmer hits the mark, in this form of racing, long pit stops of a minute or more are not unusual while drivers' seats are changed and the cars are tended to. But the Busby teams pride themselves on faster than average pit stops. At the rear of the car, the air jack is disconnected, and John Morton pulls out of the pit. Immediately, the BFGoodrich engineers take the hot tires and measure the temperature of each one.
By looking at those temperatures carefully, you can help the mechanics try to figure out how the car is handling, because depending on how the suspension is set up as far as camber and the roll stiffness, for example, front to rear, the temperatures tell you a complete history on how that car and tire is acting on a track.
Besides the 3 engineers in the pits, there's a 40-foot van in the infield with support personnel continually mounting and preparing fresh tires for the cars. Back on the track, Jochen Maas is running third behind another Lowenbrow car, driven by Al Unser Jr. With half the race completed, they're in a good position. They're within striking distance of the leader. As John Morton pushes the BFGoodrich number 68 car through traffic to 6th place, crew chief Phil Walters times the laps.
He's an excellent mechanic. He never goes home until the car's ready, and he thinks about it on his off time, and I have complete security driving the car. He's prepared.
I think there's an old saying in racing, and that's the right way is my way. But if you've got a particular way of doing something, instantly when you look at it, you think, yeah, well, that's right. You don't have to go check it. And if they do it a different way, it might look different. And then you're going to start thinking, oh, well, that's wrong. If it's done your way, you can spot problems earlier.
It wasn't hard for Ken Leyburn to learn how to work on the 68 car Phil's way, because he hasn't been in endurance racing that long.
I do the front suspension and take care of the front of the car and other maintenance on the car that needs to be done when I finish my area. I've really never had a different job out of racing. I used to be a professional bike racer before I started racing cars.
Talk about motorcycles.
Motorcycle, yeah, motocross. And I didn't get tired of it. It's just my body decided I was tired of it, and so I had to kind of take a break. And I can't think of anything else, any other type of job that I'd want to do.
Ken's teammate Peter Scott left his native Australia to find fame as a race driver in the U.S.
I got over here with a few plans and a few sponsors, but a lot of that fell through, and you've still got to pay the rent while you're doing it.
Were you working as a mechanic, or were you trying to drive at that time?
I was trying to drive, but you got to be realistic, really. I got out of racing a couple of years ago completely. I got out of working on it and sort of gave away any ideas of driving, because I just really got tired of that, tired of beating my head against the wall, and figured I got to start learning to live sometime.
They look confident as they wait for the 68 car to pit, and they should. In the garage, both cars were well prepared for the race. Rear suspensions rebuilt. The engine on the 68 car replaced last night after qualifying, and both the front end and cockpit checked out. Suddenly, Morton loses power in the 68 car as smoke trails from the engine. On the radio, Halsmer confirms it's turbo trouble as Morton pulls the car into the grass. The engineer from Andile company they use to service their engines is in the pit, but nothing can be done. The car is dead. Everyone feels responsible.